Good afternoon. My name is Michael Shepard, founder and CEO of Command Center. Today, we'll have a quick virtual walkthrough of our Command Center autonomous cybersecurity mitigation platform. During this walkthrough, we will highlight some of the key features and functionality that our customers are leveraging to prevent and mitigate cyber attacks. So we'll begin with our overall cybersecurity risk posture score grade. You'll notice that as we review and walk through our Command Center platform, we have a number of critical risk insights that inform our customers and also provide visibilities around the risk posture identified in their very complex environments. And so again, coming back to our overall risk posture score grade, you'll notice that you have a letter grade of a B. We leverage the traditional letter grade, alpha letter grade system, A, B, C, D, and F, essentially meaning the same things as you would see in a traditional letter grade system. And so this letter grade is essentially, this letter grade stems from essentially three buckets, which would be total secure, total risk, and total protect. Total secure would be how secure is your organization, your assets, and your data across a number of different points. Total risk would be how much risk does your organization have in a number of different places. This could be vulnerabilities, this could be audit findings, this could be SLA creep. And then total protect, how well protected is your organization, your data, and your assets all together, comprising your overall risk posture score grade, as well as its numerical percent value. So when we talk about Command Center, what is really important here for our customers? What do they really want and what do they need? Our customers in this example might be a CISO, a Chief Information Security Officer, or a security engineering leader. Well, in this instance, if I've got a posture score grade that's low, if I've got an F or if I've got a D or if I've got a C, I want to improve that, right? And so in this instance, I may want to incrementally improve our overall security score grade from a B to an A. And so Command Center offers that functionality as well as that opportunity. I click on our three-dot ellipse button here, and immediately Command Center in an autonomous fashion is communicating that it understands that we would like to improve our overall security posture score grade up incrementally, one step, which would be from a B to an A. That's excellent. So in this example, we would click on improve, our improve option. It would take you to our improve feature, where we would now go ahead and enable Command Center to autonomously approve our overall cybersecurity score grade, increasing our cybersecurity resiliency. In this instance, Command Center has gone and looked and said, hey, if you go ahead and enable these four features, if you allow me to go take these actions in these four areas, I can improve your overall cybersecurity risk score grade. And so the first step being, allow me to go remediate existing vulnerabilities that you have that have been identified. And those vulnerabilities can be remediated by severity, critical, high, medium, and lows, each separately or all together. I'm going to go ahead and select all, which would empower and enable Command Center to go and fix / remediate all of the vulnerabilities that it identifies, taking one of the major steps and again increasing and improving our overall security posture score grade. I go ahead and save that. Next, I go ahead and choose the protect option, which is the ability to protect our production assets, APIs, web applications, servers in a production environment. So I'm going to enable that feature. I'm going to go ahead and tell Command Center that, hey, I want to protect our assets from all severities of malicious activity and severities of cyber attack. So criticals, highs, medium, low, threat severities. I want Command Center to go ahead and protect my assets from that malicious activity and that malicious traffic. Again, we would save that option. Next, I'd want to go ahead and choose the enforce option or feature, which essentially is going to allow Command Center to go ahead and enforce security compliance on all of the assets that we have currently. This could be repos, this could be APIs, this could be web applications, this could be servers. And so I want to enforce security compliance. I can choose at what particular stage or place I'd like to have this check performed, this enforcement check. Or again, I could go ahead and choose all. So in this instance, I want to enforce security compliance at each one of these very meaningful stages. And so we'll do that, and I'd save it. And then lastly, I want to prevent vulnerabilities from being deployed from lower environments, such as development and test out into production. So if I've got vulnerabilities that are identified as part of our CI/CD process, and I want to enable a security toll gate whereby I could identify those vulnerabilities and also either alert or block/fail that pipeline, thereby preventing those vulnerabilities from being deployed out into a production environment. I would choose the prevent option. I would then come in to our vulnerability severities, and I would choose what level of severity or what severity of vulnerabilities that I'd like to have prevented and or blocked as part of a security toll gate check as within our CI/CD pipelines. And so in this instance here, we'll also choose all. We want to prevent all vulnerabilities from being deployed out into a production environment. I would save each of these. You'll notice at the bottom, we have a security, a cybersecurity risk posture security grading system scale in Legend that essentially tells you the definition of an A. Your application assets and data have strong security and protection with low risk to the organization. Essentially, what this means is that you have a very low risk of a compromise and or breach. If you were to flip that over and you had an F for your overall cybersecurity risk grade, your application assets and data have poor security and protection with substantial risk to the organization. Essentially, if you have an F or a D, there'd be no surprise if you had a breach and or compromise at any moment. And so that is our improved feature. We go to our next risk insight. We have all of our vulnerabilities across our infrastructure, our network, our system, and our application layers. And so essentially, what do I want to do here as a customer, as a security leader within an organization? Well, I want to remediate these vulnerabilities. I want these vulnerabilities to go away. I want to mitigate this risk. And so again, I'd be going to Command Center. I click on our three-dot ellipse menu. I choose the remediate option. When I click on the remediate option, Command Center is going to present me with each and every vulnerability that it's identified that has a supported fix that it can implement. And so I can go into each one of these repositories where we see issues that can be remediated. I would simply go ahead and choose the issue that I'd like to remediate. You'll notice that Open a Fix PR has lit up. I would go ahead and click on the Open Fix PR button. What that would do is that would go ahead and package the upgrades, the code up, which once deployed would remediate a particular vulnerability. Command Center is in the process right now of creating this fix PR with the associated fix. A developer would quickly review this fix PR, and once approved, could go ahead and commit this fix to a targeted branch, development, test, production, and thereby remediating any vulnerabilities that have been identified and that a fix has been packaged up for in the form of an open fix PR. So with this feature, and this does take a few minutes here, this feature, you can also see, besides seeing what issues are fixable issues, you can also see what issues have been fixed. And so the cool part with Command Center, oh, we go back here. Sorry about that. It was an active fix. With Command Center, you're able to look at what issues have been remediated using Command Center and their associated pull request link. This is very cool because a lot of times you want to go back and you want to look at the metrics or provide metrics, right, around how many issues have been discovered and that we know about versus how many has Command Center allowed us to actually go and fix and remediate, right, reducing down our risk exposure. And so that was our remediate option. We have our pipeline security risk insight, which will show us our risk across the development lifecycle. And so based off of this example, we see that we have a large number of vulnerabilities that have been identified at development, some at PR, some at CI, and really those three specific places. And so what would I want to do then? Well, in this instance, what I want to do is I want to prevent those vulnerabilities from being deployed out into a production environment, right? From these environments. And so I can very simply, again, go back to our three-dot ellipse menu. I can choose the prevent option. When I choose the prevent option, Command Center will provide me two different viewpoints or two different options. I can create a security toll gate, which will allow me to block vulnerabilities as part of the pull request process. This essentially will become a security toll gate at PR. I'd be able to identify what repositories I could go ahead and activate this gate. And so I'll go ahead and do that. I will create a security toll gate at PR for our ETL pipeline here. Once I select to activate the security PR gate, I choose the severity level of the issues I'd like to prevent, which would be high. I'd activate this. And so as I'm activating this particular function, you'll see that it's been successfully activated. I now have a working security toll gate that will block and fail a code merge here at PR for this repo. If there are any high severity issues that have been identified, I can also choose to be alerted as part of this security toll gate functionality. I can do the same thing as part of our CI/CD within our pipeline. So essentially the same thing where I would be able to identify active and running pipelines. These could be in Jenkins, these could be GitHub Actions, this could be AWS pipelines, this could be ADO, it could be Bitbucket. Essentially, I would have the opportunity in the pipelines where we'd like to go and institute and enable security toll gates. I could go in and essentially go and enable active security toll gates that again would alert and or fail these pipelines based off the severity of issues that we choose to do so. And so I'd go ahead and activate the security toll gate feature in the same way that I did for PR. And so essentially with the click of the button, I have the ability to go out, identify different critical opportunities, either at PR or as part of our CI/CD, where I would have the opportunity to implement security toll gates that would prevent vulnerabilities ultimately from being deployed to a production environment We have the ability here in Command Center to essentially identify our most healthiest assets. And again, an asset might be a server, it could be a workstation, it could be a network device, it could be a network firewall, it could be a system, it could be an application, which could be a web application, a repository, an API, a web service, a microservice. And so those would be considered assets. I can look at this particular insight and I'm able to determine which one of my assets are my top performers or have the most security, are the healthiest from a security perspective, and then which ones are the least secure based off a number of different determinations. The reason this is important is this gives you the opportunity to really focus your time, your resources, and attention where it's required, right? Meaning where you have assets that are very insecure and pose the greatest risk to the organization, that's where you want to focus your time and attention. We have our production readiness risk insight, which essentially allows us to identify out of all of our assets, which ones are really healthy for production release and are secure enough to be in production, which ones there's a caution, a high risk associated with, which ones there is a conditional moderate risk, which ones that just absolutely there's significant risk. Those assets should not be in a production environment. We have our coverage risk insight. This allows us to understand, all the very meaningful security capabilities and tools where we're able to identify vulnerabilities. We're able to identify active threats in our environment and protect our assets. Well, coverage becomes very important. So in this example, we're looking at SCA, which is software composition analysis. This is something that be provided by a SNEAK or Checkmarks or Veracode. We've got SAS, which is software application security testing. In this example, you'd be able to see that almost 60% of our assets have SCA scanning, which is not bad. We'd like to see that increased. Actually, it'll show you the actual number of assets that have coverage. For SAS, same thing. For DAS, dynamic application security testing, we have zero coverage in our organization for zero of our assets. So guess what? We definitely need to do better there if DAS is a requirement within the organization. And same thing for web application firewall. This is zero coverage across zero assets. So meaning we have no protection by way of a web application firewall in our environment today. We've got our high risk vulnerabilities. These are the riskiest, most critical vulnerabilities we have in our organization at this time. And if we were to suffer a breach and or compromise, it's probably going to be by way of one of the three of these issues. So this is where we'd like to focus our remediation efforts. We have our security and compliance enforcement for our assets. And so essentially what happens here is I have the ability to look at all of our assets that Command Center has identified. I can choose an asset. When I choose an asset, I'm able to immediately understand if that asset is in compliance with our security requirements. And those security requirements are really set at 5 kind of critical stages from design and development all the way out into production. In this instance, in this example, I don't have any of our security, or I should say this risk insight right now is suggesting that we don't have, there's zero security compliance enforcement, nothing's lit up. And so what would I want to do in this instance? What would a customer want to do? What would a CISO want to do? Is I want to go ahead and enable enforcement compliance for this asset. And so I go ahead and choose our enforcement option or feature. I would enable security compliance enforcement in Command Center. I would choose where we'd like to have this enforcement happen. And in this example, again, I'll choose all. And so it'll allow me to choose all, each one of these respective checks. I would save that. That setting is saved. And now for that asset, a command center is empowered autonomously to go and enforce security compliance on that asset in real time. We have our risk management risk insight, where I'm able to visually understand our SLA violations. If we've got critical severity vulnerabilities by policy that need to be remediated in 30 days, and I've got 1,000 vulnerabilities, critical severity, that have been sitting for 200 days, well, those are in violation of our policy. So you see those numbers populate here, you'd be able to drill down and immediately go and take action against that risk. We're able to track and visualize your risk accept here, or as part of your risk exception process, your risk accept. And essentially, these two risk insights would serve as doorways to both workflows. I could request a risk exception from issues that are listed out as I drill down here for risk accept. And for risk exception, I could drill down also and perform a review and or approvals as required. False positive audit. Command Center is natively designed to perform false positive analysis on all the vulnerabilities that it has identified from the various tools. So what does that do? That really allows you to cut down the time wasted in looking at issues that ultimately are false positives, as well as audit compliance findings, where you can go ahead and have access to a workflow to remediate those issues. We have all your mean time to resolve issues, your total open, total new, total resolve, your mean time to resolve around your remediation efforts. We can look at a organizational summary of those issues across teams. So if you've got 100 different development teams that are all working internally, we're able to essentially visualize key metrics across all of those teams in a summary fashion. Again, open issues, new issues resolved, and then break those down by severity, mean time to resolve, and then that development team's overall security grade based off of the code base. Lastly, we have our threat protection monitor. This is a very powerful risk insight. This essentially is visualizing all of your production assets, again, APIs, web applications, web services. Depending on the asset, I'm able to understand what threats are actively acting on our production assets. This would be malicious activity, malicious request, malicious traffic. I can understand what vulnerabilities are present in that asset's code base and exploitable. And so in this example, well, what would I want to do? Well, I want to protect these assets from any type of exploitation, any type of malicious activity and or attack. And so I choose our protect option. What you'll notice here is you have a number of different assets that are listed out. These are all production assets and their associated vulnerabilities by severity. What I would want to do here is Command Center allows me to enable protection, real-time protection for this asset and production environment. So in this example, I'm going to choose a web application firewall as my means of protection. I will go ahead and choose to be alerted by any signatures, malicious activity that is occurring in production against this asset. I will be alerted by that activity, and I can choose to take action. In this later example here, in the next example, I'm going to choose a web application firewall. However, in this instance, this is a business critical app. Can't afford to have this thing exploited. We're going to choose to block all of the malicious activity that might be targeting these existing vulnerabilities in that asset in real time. So super powerful feature and capability. In this next example, I would choose a runtime application self-protection control, a RASP. I would choose to go ahead and block, leveraging a RASP as my primary protection and control or along with the WAF and prod. And so this is our protect feature. This is Command Center's ability to protect all of your production assets in a production environment from threats in real time. Lastly, we have our inventory. Our inventory is where we would capture all of your assets. Again, we've talked about your infrastructure, your network, your system, your application layer. So your APIs, your web applications, your web services, their associated security score grade, their security health across the security compliance workflow. We would have the associated vulnerabilities that are sitting there, and the ability to go ahead and to take action based off of what asset we might want to take that action in. We have our findings page, which will list out all of the vulnerabilities and risk identified in your organization by severity, each row. And then also, again, what the issue is, what the severity is, what tool discovered the issue, and whether it's open or closed. And then the ability to take action and form a remediation. Now, how does Command Center have all this data? How is Command Center able to visualize all this critical data? Well, essentially, it is really the first major critical piece of how Command Center works. And it was really premised around the idea that today's cybersecurity does not work. And so what if there was a technology that was able to talk to all of your technology and cybersecurity tools in real time? Not only connect to these tools, but understood the tools, understood their relevance, what the tool does, the capability, understood the tool's data, and understood, you know, hey, when you have this 100+ tools that you're able to talk to, understand how all their data fits together to essentially be able to create one singular risk posture, right? Story, essentially a 1,000-piece puzzle. You put the pieces together and you have one picture, right? Which will represent your security posture. So we currently support over 110 cyber and technology tools. Command Center is able to connect to these tools but by providing the relevant information provided. A lot of times it's going to be some API secret and some type of vendor customer ID. You'll provide that information in the Command Center and you'll submit it. Once you've provided that information and connect it, it takes literally a couple of seconds. Command Center will connect to the tool of choice. And in this instance, you may have a number of different tools you're talking to, right, to ingest that data. These tools sit across 10 different categories, and we're constantly adding support for additional tools every 2 to 4 weeks, as well as new categories. We'll be adding a category for SIM and as well as a category for antivirus here in our next release. So more tools, more data, more visibility in your very complex environment. So again, this is really the fundamental premise of Command Center, is its ability to connect and talk to the different tools within your organization, ingest their data, be able to put all that data together in some very powerful way so that you're able to visualize your risk posture in real time, and then leveraging these same tools and capabilities, empower your organization to go remediate, prevent, enforce, improve, and protect your assets. In prod, we have our help section, which does a great job in really empowering you to better understand our platform, to take advantage of it. We have our marketplace where you're able to go and say you don't have any of these tools, you don't have the budget to go out and purchase some of these expensive tools. You can go into our marketplace and leverage a number of open source products that are there and available immediately that provide the same type of capabilities as the paid tools. And then lastly, again, our policy section, where you'd be able to go in and automate things in an autonomous fashion, where I'd go in and had say, hey, I want Command Center to go automatically on its own, fix vulnerabilities. In this example, it's been set to go ahead and fix vulnerabilities that are medium severity. I'll change that to critical. I can go tell it to protect assets based off of level of severity of the malicious activity. I can do also the same thing with enforce. So again, this is our Command Center autonomous cybersecurity mitigation platform. It has been powerfully helpful in transforming how our organizations are protecting their businesses, their assets, and their customers. And then lastly, I didn't touch on this. You have the ability as a leader, it could be a security leader, technology leader, a development leader. It could be somebody in governance, risk, compliance. It could be the board. But it's really important at the end of the day to take a tool like a Command Center solution and be able to have access to data that would visualize the progress you're making, right? Your ROI, these outcomes that the solution is providing you respective to your needs. And so we do that in a number of different ways. This is our executive dashboard, our one-pager. It's able to show you risks broken down by your assets or across your assets, risk across your business units. So those business units that are generating your business revenue for the organization, you'll be able to dig down and drill down into which organizations internally, business units are posing the most risk to the organization, where resources need to go. Again, across your assets, security, the overall security posture score grade, your trending of vulnerabilities over time, month to month. You can look at your open issues by severity over a period of time. You're able to look at your mean time to reporting metrics and data, your developer security, which developers are working internally and introducing the most vulnerabilities that are exposing us to risk. And then lastly, a metric and an insight around our security incidents and data that would be specific to cyber attacks that we face on a daily basis. So again, this is our Command Center solution. Again, it has been powerfully helpful in really transforming our customers' ability to protect themselves, their data, and their assets against cyber attacks. Thank you so much.